welcome back to another tutorial on Gearsaw Studios. And today I'm going to be showing you how to build yourself a giant Minecraft sign. In case you ever missed those legacy console days right here, where we always had those giant Minecraft billboards hanging over the world. And it's always nice to see it back, especially with the new blocks implemented in the game since insert very long time ago here. So without further ado, onto the tutorial. But first off, the palette. Here's the awkward thing. The Minecraft logo doesn't really need any sort of palette, since you can easily change what blocks are under it. For all I know, you don't even want an underside and only want to have text floating in the air, and that's completely fine. But I'm going to do this tutorial assuming that you are doing this bottom part. And you can choose a variety of different blocks, but a couple of key things you need are 1. Some sort of framing or a block that looks good on its own, and 2. Lighting, and potentially some texturing. Here we have a deep slate palette utilizing sea lanterns. Of course, it might not be what you want, but this is a good example of what you could do. Once you're ready to build, you need to keep one thing in mind. The fact that the Minecraft logo is an even amount of blocks, which means if you want to build it over something such as this sword here, it won't work because you see, it's an odd number of blocks, which will result in the thing never being centered, which means you have to be careful if you're centering it over something. This Zeppelin here would work, although I wouldn't recommend building it over a Zeppelin, rather on the side of a Zeppelin. You can see, it's an even amount of blocks on the front, which means this would work. If a build is asymmetric, such as this house here, then it doesn't particularly matter that much. But, of course, measure from one end to the other end just to make sure if you're going to get real nitpicky about that. Then, once you have that done, here's the command to create said build. 69 by 11 by 2. But here's the thing, the 2 is actually a mistake. You only want to do 1. Because when you put the squigglies at the front, called tildes, you have this issue where it includes the block you're in currently. If we were to do 70, 12, 2, then everything would be one block too big. It would be 71 by 13, which wouldn't be very good, not to mention it would be an extra block too thick. Once you have all that done, then start building your sign. I've already started construction, definitely not because I put 80 and realized it's not 80, rather 70. And then we have our very complicated font. But of course the black backdrop here. The font cannot be replicated in any meaningful way, so you have to look at this every time you want to build a new letter, which is rather unfortunate, but fortunately, I have some tips. 1. Everything starts out with a 3 by 10 base. As you can see, it's 2 eyes with a connector in the middle for an M. The I is a perfect example. The N is the same thing with 8 blocks in the middle. An E is an I with 2 block tall extensions. And the C is just an E without the middle prong, while an F is also just an E without the bottom prong. The R is best built as a solid block while removing 6 blocks from said thing, while the A is a similar situation. And then the T ends off nice, it's just an I with 2 little prongs on top. Once you have all these, then you'll be golden. And if you need a closer look, pause the video on each letter. Don't forget to put it on both sides, especially if you plan on living behind it. As you can see, I centered it over this pyramid, but if I were to ever go behind the pyramid, we have a bit of an awkward situation. So make sure to do both sides, or put a back on it that would reasonably be a problem to add lettering to, such as a mountain, or a zeppelin. Now, we have ourselves the text printed on both sides, and if you're wondering how to print it quicker in creative mode, use structure blocks. They might be a little complicated to learn at first, but what you want to do is place it under the edge of the T and then 48 by 10, make sure the relative position is 1 by 1, and you'll notice it'll go all the way to this end if placed right. And then you save it, go to the other side, rotate it 180 using the bottom, place it, and then at the edge of it on the completed side, place another structure block here, and repeat. Then you'll get the entire sentence, well, word, built in said font. From here, what I recommend doing is make it whatever block you want in case you built it out of a filler block. In case you copied my sea lanterns for accessibility purposes, then replace it with a block you do want to use. Unless you want to use sea lanterns, but I'd say that's ill-advised. And here we have the command, and now it's all nice light gray concrete, and it looks like the logo. Prepare yourself some lighting blocks so that way we can place stuff under the sign, and then something to hold it up if you want that. With the logo now in place, you might say that this is finished. However, I have one major objection. It doesn't look good at night. Here's the thing, you can tell what builds look good based off of their lighting. You see, a lot of these have good lighting conditions, which makes them good. Of course, some builds kinda don't need lighting for a good reason. And then builds that do need lighting and don't get it, such as this golf course over here, can be seen as very drab at night. This build would greatly benefit from some lanterns or lighting source of another kind. Therefore, I recommend adding an underpart to this. And it's pretty simple. Grab any easy to use lighting block. I recommend sea lanterns since guardian farms are commonplace nowadays, but torches will also work, even if they might produce some lag thanks to the particles they make. Then, place moss carpets on top of them, if you're building with moss nearby. Essentially, cover them up if it doesn't work with your build. And dot them periodically if you are running low on resources or don't want to spend a bunch of time getting e-lanterns, or you can do it all around. I'm going to do it all around to save myself time and personally because I think that adding the carpets like this and then creating a teeny tiny staircase effect would look nice. So make sure your logo is properly lit up. Now we have ourselves some lighting here with the moss, and you can see how much better it looks at night when it comes with lighting. Because here's the thing, any fantastic build can be ruined by a lack of light. And this can be obviously seen through this golf course. Even if it's not necessarily fantastic, still you can see it looks a lot more drab at night compared to several other builds with proper lighting. A good example would also be too much lighting with that efficient farm. Although that has good reason, it's crop growth, still too much lighting can also ruin the build, which means I wouldn't recommend making the whole thing bright. Keeping it a nice gradient like this works nicely. Then do whatever you want with the bottom. Potentially just add a ring of 3 thick gray concrete at the bottom. I was originally considering adding some cobbled deep slate to the bottom and another ring, and I will be showing that shortly just as an example. But there's a lot of different things you can do, and I highly recommend experimenting. Now our build is complete. We have proper lighting if you change it to nighttime. Change it back to day, we have the nice black background in order to differentiate it from the back. And we also have some customization options that you can do. You see, we have cobbled deep slate here and another way of gray concrete there, but we could add gray concrete to the top. Or even, we can swap out some of the blocks. Like this, lime concrete, and I think I like this better since it looks more like the Minecraft palette. And you can place this just about anywhere in the sky, which makes it a nice addition to signify that your world is nice and developed. And with that, it's the end of today's video. If you enjoyed this video, remember, please like and subscribe. It really helps me out, especially since I'm starting to move ahead of schedule in preparation for December. If you don't know what that means, scroll down and realize the frequency of uploads during winter. Either way, enjoy the rest of your day. Gearsaw out.